We're starting over. So, Brett, can you give me a sound check? Am I sounding okay?
Yep. Dave, you sound good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Everyone.
A little bit of the first malfunction of the day. Okay, so let me start over again. I'm Dave Handwerk. I'm the chief of the economic formulation section here in Planning and Tribal District. I'm with Kira Balstas, who's one of our planners and our district tribal liaison and one of our floodplain management services guru. A few housekeeping notes. Usually we find with WebEx, the call me function, using a phone is a little bit better than the computer audio, but up to you. If you could, please introduce yourself in the chat box. We do pretty much a mass email, but sometimes those get forwarded on, so we'd like to know kind of who's who. If you can keep yourself on mute during the presentation, we'd appreciate that as well. We'll try to rip through the whole thing in about 15 minutes or thereabouts, and we'll stick around until there are we exhaust all the possible questions. So if you want to put those in the chat box, and then we'll try to address those, and then we'll have people come off mute and kind of popcorn questions to us at the end. So the presentation is going to be recorded. We'll send out a link to where you can see it for your viewing pleasure, and then we'll also email out to everybody we have on our list the presentation as well, so you have that for your information. I think that's the main intro. Quick agenda. So we'll talk mostly about the Floodplain Management Services Program, what kind of services we can provide, give you a few examples of a couple of current and past studies to give you a flavor for what that program is about. Talk a little bit about the proposal cycle and what is needed. We can help you a lot with putting together proposals. Navigating some of the government stuff's always a challenge at times, and we're here to help you with that. And just talk about how we submit the applications. And then toward the end, we'll also touch on a couple other Corps of Engineers programs, the Planning Assistance to States and Tribes, Continuing Authorities, and our Tribal Partnership Program. And then we'll just open it up for Q&A at the end. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kira.
All right, thanks, Dave. Hi, everyone. My name is Kira. I am a community planner and the tribal liaison, like Dave said, at the Chicago District. I'm just going to give a brief introduction of the program for those of you who aren't familiar with our floodplain management, or we refer to it as FPMS. So I'll just explain the genesis of it and how the Army Corps has structured it to work with communities. And so in 1960, authorization by Section 206 of the Flood Control Act birthed this program and provided authority for the Army Corps to provide this full range of flood risk information and technical services and some planning guidance to support and promote effective flood risk and floodplain management. So we do require that the studies are flood risk related. So while there are ample water resource issues that we do address overall as an agency throughout the district, this program is really addressing flood risk only. And these studies are just that. They are studies, or what you might refer to as something, a scoping study. It's analyzing the flood issue. We gather data, we coordinate with other agencies, other folks on the ground, and we propose some alternatives, some solutions or ideas to address the flooding. It does not result in construction, although there are programs both through the Corps and other agencies and various grant programs that can be using the information and the plans we develop in the study to implement a future project. And what we do at the end of these studies, we have a very large report, and we do provide a list of recommendations and next steps, so you're not just with a report without an idea of how to move forward. And we like to wrap up these studies in about 12 months. It can extend up to 2 years or 24 months, but we do like to keep it at 12. It also makes the application a bit more competitive when we submit it. And like I said, it is a competitive program, so we do review your request letters and your applications. We'll be looking at both the feasibility of doing the study and the need for it, and certainly the cost. And then the next slide. So as far as the types of services that FPMS offers, there's about kind of 3 buckets that these services fall into. The first is the general services bucket that you can see at the top. So that includes flood and floodplain data that we either develop or obtain through another party, and we analyze that. And it can also include some like community outreach and engagement. We work with a variety of stakeholders, as I said, because the education and awareness component, and certainly gathering local knowledge is really important on part of flood risk management. And so that second bucket, the general planning guidance, this includes actual floodplain planning. So once we have that data, we work with it to develop a plan on what to do with that data and how to mitigate some of those flood risks or develop, flood alert systems. And finally, we also develop guides and pamphlets and supporting studies. And on the right, you can see some of those common products that we offer. I won't run through the full list. It's a bit extensive and actually probably doesn't include everything that we do. But we'll be posting these slides online, like Dave said, so you can see them after the presentation and take a look at those. Next slide. Here you can see a very lively picture of a recent study we kicked off in December. We're just going to give a few examples, about 3 of what we do, and how we partner with agencies and municipalities and other entities. So this is with the Village of Posen, working in partnership with them, and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, or MWRDGC is their acronym, so many of you may be familiar with them. There's multiple flood-prone areas in the village, and the assumption from our part is that it's a result of an overloaded sewer system. So we're working with the village right now and MWRDGC over the coming months through the end of our fiscal year to come up with some kind of practical recommendations around alleviating some of that flooding. And you can see in this picture, that's our kickoff meeting. We do a tour usually of the area after we have an official meeting. That's the mayor in the photo on kind of the left, the third person in, and we've got Dave in there as well and some other staff that were on the study. And we also wrapped up 3 studies that ran concurrently in the East River watershed of Wisconsin. That went really well. We worked with a fairly large stakeholder group of government agencies and a local nonprofit, and those studies addressed community engagement and stakeholder coordination. We had a flood warning plan that we were kind of working on or working through, along with the potential to install another gauge in the river system. And then we also performed a flood storage analysis to see what was most feasible to store some of those flood waters in larger flood events. And then another one we recently wrapped up was the Kankakee Yellow River, Indiana Flood Preparedness Plan. That was a really large study. My colleague and I, we facilitated 3 workshops across 8 counties along the Kankakee River or adjacent to it. We were addressing flood preparedness and response. We did 3 large workshops. It went really well. We're hoping to do some more of them in due time. And that was a really, really large stakeholder group as well. So collaboration is a big part of what we do. So just to give you an overview, there are 2 FPMS cycles. So you may have heard of the program. You may not be aware that there are 2 cycles. We're in the first one that usually kicks off our first fiscal year. And so the products coming out of both proposal cycles are pretty similar, just so you know if you're curious about what differentiates the 2. And the one we're focusing on today is the interagency non-structural proposals. So both FPMS proposal types are competitive and the decisions are made at the headquarters level. We do not make them at the district level, but we do our best to help develop strong applications with you. And there's an application kind of sample you'll see in a couple of slides, the formal template. Again, we will work with you on this. And for this cycle, we do require at least 2 government partners beyond the Army Corps to leverage resources, and that can be monetary or in kind in terms of resources. And I noted before, I think the projects or studies that typically cost around $100K, and we're asking that you submit your applications to us by March 1st, although the earlier the better, and that just helps us develop a strong application to finally submit to our kind of division level that ultimately gets kicked up to headquarters by March 29th. And then we have our other cycle, the FPMS base program, and that application process is a bit more simple. Some of you may be familiar with it. You basically submit a letter to us with, a little bit of a description describing the issue. The more details, the better, especially if we can get like maps and images and things like that. And for both of them, the primary non-federal sponsor must be a government agency. That's true of both of the programs. The base program is 100% federally funded, so no additional resources are required. And just so you know, for both of these, I think I noted this before, this is not a grant program. So you don't receive funding from us. The cost is really for technical service and support that we provide. So it's our kind of labor. And the same cost as previously noted, about at or under $100K. All right, so some of these points I kind of noted before, just to reiterate, regarding the proposal details and submitting your applications with all the necessary documents. We want to make sure that all of the proposals and applications are appropriately coordinated with anticipated partners. There's a lot of collaboration even in the application development process. These proposals must seek to reduce flood risk through natural, nature-based, or non-structural means. And so you can see in this link that you can click on the link once we send out the slides, and you'll see them posted online. You can see additional descriptions and tools regarding the structural programs. Proposals must be entered into the template provided. The average timeline is around 12 to 18 months, around 100K. And so there are some proposal criteria just to be aware of, and this is laid out in the application guidelines. This is an abbreviated version of it. So you want it to describe an outcome that directly protects life safety and reduces or prevents increases in flood risk and or increases resiliency. I know especially a term like resiliency can be very broad. It's expanded upon in the call for applications. Certainly want to leverage partner resources and promote shared responsibility amongst partners, so everyone's really contributing in a way that enhances or promotes their own expertise and experience, because everyone's participation is really important. And proposals typically will be judged more favorably if they improve environmental function, they address other social effects, so we're talking about both people and the environment. They serve disadvantaged communities, so that's a really big priority for us and tribal reservations, tribes in general, addresses repetitive flooding, supports planning and or preparedness for climate change impacts, or can support drought planning and resilience. So that's a bit of an added one. You know, we talked about flooding quite a bit, but the drought planning as well has been a newer addition. So there will be forms, and this is a screenshot of what the application template looks like. And just to note, I believe there's about 4 pages. This is just the first on that far right. And then that one actually on the left, the partner support template, is what you would fill out. And to clarify, we will fill out the application template with you, but we'll be kind of leading the charge on that, so you don't have to worry about that. But then for any partners on that, fill out that support template. So just to be aware of that, and we can answer any questions about that during the process, so you're not in the alone. And so now that you've gotten a sense of the program, you're probably wondering how you can submit an application. You want to submit that application via the kind of template that'll be provided to my email and to Dave, please, and we can both assist in the preparation. And you must attach the supporting documentation from, I believe it's 2 partners. I said it says 1, but we're going to have 2 partners on this at least. And our deadline is March 1st. Of course, we always appreciate earlier coordination, and contact Dave and I with any questions process. But again, it's very collaborative, so we would be in touch regardless. And Dave, I'm going to hand it off to you to talk about our other programs.
So just real quick summary wrap up on FPMS. This first one is interagency. So we need at least 2 governmental agencies to be involved with it. It is 100% federally funded. Those funds are not a grant. Those funds basically come to us at the district to execute. All right. So that's it. So planning assistance to states. I got a couple other programs we'll talk about. So the planning assistance to states and tribes is a separate program from the floodplain management one. This is eligible for states, Native American Indian tribes, local government can be at any level, and also nonprofit organizations can also be sponsors. So this is a little bit different than FPMS, where that has to be all government, nonprofits, 501c3s can be sponsors for the planning assistance to states. Like FPMS, it does not provide funding for design and implementation, so we're not going to come out with construction at the end of it. Typically, it's a 50-50 cost share. I'll explain that red asterisk in the next slide. The non-federal share can be cash that's provided to us, or it could be work in kind or some kind of a combination. It's broader than floodplain management, so it doesn't necessarily have to address flooding. So we can be looking at water quality, we can be looking at groundwater, we can look at ecosystem type work. It could also have a larger budget than floodplain management. Floodplain management typically 100, 150. Some of these planning assistance state studies are in that $500,000 range, so it is a little bit larger budget. A couple quick examples. On the upper right of the slide there is the Chicago Waterways System Restoration Framework Plan. So this is one we worked on with the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development, MWRD, Cook County Forest Reserve District, and Chicago Park District. So that was a multi-agency one. They don't have to be. Where we're really looking at potential for restoration of the waterway system, the Chicago River, on a county-wide basis. We also are doing one currently with the Metropolitan Milwaukee Sewerage District, where we're doing an assessment of concrete line channels, looking at restoring some ecological function and flood risk. So just a little bit of a flavor of the planning assistance to states and tribes. The red asterisk is this. So this is something new this year. So in the Water Resources Development Act of 22, it provides for 100% federal funding for planning assistance state studies in economically disadvantaged communities. So an economically disadvantaged community is defined as one of all federally recognized tribes, communities that qualify as disadvantaged using the Council on Environmental Quality's Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool, CJIS. That's a little screenshot on the right-hand side of that tool. Or if there's low per capita income, below 20% of the national average, or unemployment rate at least 1% greater than the national average. So if the study area qualifies on one of those, and we can help you walk through those pieces, it could qualify for 100% federal funding of a planning assistance states and tribes. That's a new and interesting one that we're looking to do some more outreach on. Continuing Authorities Program is another one of the core programs. So this is a standing congressional authorization for smaller Corps of Engineers projects. So it includes feasibility studies and design and implementation, so we can actually build stuff off of this. The feasibility phase is basically a 50-50 cost share. Working kind credits could apply. Implementation is typically 65% federal, 35% non-federal. There are cost limits on all of these. The federal investment is typically less than $10 million, but it does get after some of the smaller type projects. It is highly competitive. There's not enough budget to go around, so we do get a couple of these every year. A couple quick examples. We finished one in Underwood Creek, or that's in progress, I believe now, in Underwood Creek in Wisconsin. So that's an ecosystem restoration project. We did a dam removal in Portage, Indiana, also under that same authority. And we just wrapped up a feasibility study for a rehab of a levee in Joliet. The different authorities that are there, these all refer to different sections of federal law that covers the different authorities that we can execute on this one, along with their project purposes. So a pretty broad range of water resources type authorities. Tribal Partnership, Kira.
All right, thank you. So our Tribal Partnership Program, it provides authority for the Corps to perform water-related planning activities and activities related to the study. And it also includes design and construction, which is great. And they are located primarily on tribal lands that substantially benefit the federally recognized tribes. So there are 6 federally recognized tribes that reside within the area of responsibility that the Army Corps serves. And so there are 6 that we are building relationships with and hoping to continue to support over the coming years. Our area of responsibility expanded in 2020. So we recently kind of came in contact with 6 other federally recognized tribes, and we're continuing to build out those relationships. So we're excited about it. And as far as the funding for the program goes, the Army Corps is responsible for all feasibility study costs up to this particular number, $648,000. That does change sometimes annually, so this is the one for this fiscal year. And then the Army Corps is also responsible for all construction costs up to $648,000. And then all costs over that, either for the study or the construction, are shared with the tribe. And as you can see, for the tribal responsibilities, the tribe's share may be provided as in-kind services, and that can be negotiated in the cost-sharing agreement. So there's a lot of flexibility here in terms of the cost and how much the Army Corps can provide. And again, that number changes annually, so that's how much is available, but that starts off as a conversation. So when a tribe reaches out to us, we start talking about any water resource issues and how we can help them. So if you are a tribe on the call, please reach out to us. I know I talked to a couple before this. So the types of projects that are possible, there's a variety of them, and they do extend beyond this list. But flood damage reduction, ecosystem restoration is really important to tribes, and wetland restoration. So, there's a big interest in that. Cultural and natural resources preservation, erosion and sediment control, water control management changes, and watershed and river basin studies. So studies or projects can be covered under this program. And so you can see my contact information below. Please contact me if you're interested in the program, if you know a federally recognized tribe that is. They may reside within our AOR, and even if they don't, I certainly can point you to the right district that can serve them. So, yeah, that's about it.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we ripped through the presentations.
Yeah.
I think we'll first go through the chat.
Yeah.
If you can kind of.
I don't see questions in the chat.
Questions in the chat?
But feel free to raise your hand, or you can throw. Okay, let's see, Bradley. How often are calls for proposals in the FPMS open? So hopefully this answers your question. So there are 2 cycles. This is the first call for proposals, and that's particular to the interagency non-structural. So basically what that means is we're collaborating with multiple agencies on this, but the products are the same for both cycles. And so this is one of 2 applications are due to us March 1st. And then the second call for proposals is typically taking place in the June to July, which is when they're due. So we'll probably request a deadline within like late May, early June, something like that. So it's twice a year.
Right. So it's,
Yeah.
so it's an annual thing for each program,
Mm-hmm.
and basically these proposals would result in funding starting in fiscal year 25, which
Yes.
for us is starts October of 2024.
Yes. Thank you.
Any others?
Great, thanks, that answered my question, I appreciate it.
Okay,
Sure thing.
great. Yeah. Don't see any others in the chat.
Okay.
Let me see if we see any hands up. Yeah, we got another. Okay, Melissa, hello. Thanks for joining us. For FPMS proposals, can a community-based organization be part of the multi-government partnership? So the primary partners have to be government agencies, but that does not leave out community-based organizations or being part of that collaborative group and being part of all the communications and stuff like that. But for the 2 or more partners that are required to be part of these interagency non-structurals applications, they do need to be government agencies. Right. At the local, regional, state, federal level. So not in terms of who they serve. Kim, tips on getting other agency participation, municipality with potential study areas within the city not affecting a larger unit of government. Other agency participation. Yeah, I mean, we typically partner with municipalities, like local governments. That's actually our most common partner. And we do a lot of targeted outreach, too, when we find out about areas. So, working with the Village of Posen, the City of Gary. Let's see, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think we could help you work through that. I don't know, Kim, do you want to come off mute, maybe expand on that?
Yeah.
So that I understand it a little bit better?
Yeah. Yes, Melissa. She said, are cities and tribes an eligible partnership? Yes, definitely. Yeah, Kim, feel free to expand upon that. I'm just seeing, do you want to come off mute, or you can always reach out to us after this call as well, and we can schedule a separate call if that's helpful. And I see your question. Our county would like to work with our municipalities to have a general guidebook to help with flood prevention repair. Which program might be able to help with this? I mean. Yeah,
so Ann, I would say on your question about working with communities on a guidebook for flood preparedness or flood prevention, either floodplain management services or the planning assistance to states would would qualify. I could see it fitting under both of those programs.
Yeah. Especially for FPMS, my colleague and I that hosted the 3 workshops along the Kankakee River in Indiana for the 8 counties, those were focused on helping those municipalities and counties develop flood preparedness and response plans. So we provided a lot of tools and resources to guide them in that process. So that's something to consider. And we definitely can have a call with you after this to talk through that a bit more if you'd like to learn a bit more about it. I know we just gave a very brief overview of it today. Kim, microphone not working.
Okay, gotcha.
Municipality needs a partner other than USACE, correct? Yes, we do need 2 or more for this. So if there's another municipality or a local government partner, but Kim, I can reach out to you after this call and just kind of clarify any questions you have or work through any of this, the idea that you have. But thank you for noting that in the chat. That may have been a question other people had as well. Let's see. Anyone else with burning questions? Grant, our watershed-based volunteer group, the Manitowoc Creek Watershed Alliance, has been working with the local drainage district on a non-lethal beaver management program. Have you modeled effects of beaver dams under previous FPM projects?
I would say the answer on that about beaver dams is no, we probably haven't, although that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
I could see that one that one might be better under the planning assistance of states, but we can maybe explore that under the floodplain management services one.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that we have any experience with that. Now, one of the things we do typically do is when we get an unusual request like that, we would probably reach out to some of our other core districts or some of our other expertise within the agency to see, okay, has somebody done something like that before? But that would be an interesting problem to approach.
Yeah. Grant, if you're interested in talking a bit more about it, feel free to reach out to us and we can definitely see if you're interested. Okay, thanks, Ann. All right, thank you, Kim. All right, anyone else?
So I'm not seeing anything more in the chat. If people want to just popcorn questions off to us by coming off mute and just throwing them out there, we're happy to listen to that as well.
Got another one. Okay. Thanks about, okay. Beaver management. Okay. Well, that would be very interesting. Great. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess, we do encourage folks to reach out to us. There's a lot of little idiosyncrasies and things that we can help work through to make a real competitive proposal. Feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information's on the screen there, by email or by phone. We're happy to help people work through the program.
Yeah.
We'll try to get this, the presentation out to everybody that we have on our list or any of the other folks that have chatted with their contact information, that you have the slides. If you have any questions, reach out, and then we'll try to post a link to this recording on our website. We're doing a website migration currently, so it's a little bit uncertain on when we'll get that up there, but we'll send out information on that so you can view the video at your pleasure.
Yeah.
But please reach out to us. We're here to help everybody work their way through the process. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Thanks so much. Glad you joined us, Lita. Thanks for your.
Stop the record.